Shalom, welcome to our Erev Shabbat class here from Eretz Israel. I'm Avraham Shira. We have a very interesting piece of Zohar to learn today. I think it could answer a lot of questions that a lot of people have about spirituality, about the connections between heaven and earth, between the human soul and our master. And of course, we're in Parshat Vayishlach, when Yaakov Avinu has sent forth angels, we're told, to his brother Esav, because he's afraid of him. And the commentators, the great rabbis of the past, argue, are these real angels or they're just messengers? And so the idea of sending an angel sounds like a pretty powerful thing. You know, if you have this cosmic connection that you could send forth a spiritual entity to do your work, that sounds like a pretty good deal, you know, a pretty good power game. But you have to be on the level of Yaakov Avinu, perhaps, to be able to make those judgments and have that kind of power. In our Kabbalah classes on Patreon, we have discussed this in depth because the soul of a human being was brought here, the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto writes, to bring down new souls. Our job is to bring souls into the world. Now, of course, the simple interpretation of that is having children. But if you're on the level, a tzaddik can bring, or a tzaddikus can bring down a soul without the physical aspect of giving birth. They can bring down a soul that can, well, do your will. And there are formulas for this in Kabbalah, and it's extremely dangerous. And a person who's not on the level, who tries this kind of thing, will find himself in deep trouble, because the angel that you create can actually report against you. Isn't that nice? Now, Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, the great tradition of the Mishnah, tells us that every time we do a good deed, we create an angel. Well, isn't that interesting? And every time we do the opposite of a good deed, well, we create a prosecuting attorney. Apparently, there's a lot of prosecuting attorneys out there in the legal system of this world, so we must be doing something to help that along. But nonetheless, so just the idea of Jacob sending angels is a fascinating subject. But the Zohar starts out with something that's equally as fascinating, that we're born with angels. Well, actually, we're born with one, and he's called the Evil Inclination. And the Zohar says it's an angel mamash. Now, that doesn't sound very good. I'm born with an evil angel. The DA is on my shoulder from the moment I enter this world. Who wants to live in such a world? The Zohar brings verses to support these ideas. And what we need to know is that when we talk about angels, we're talking about information delivery systems. We're talking about information. We're not talking about anything that can defeat us. The power of an angel is to present an image in your mind and get you to do what the image is projecting. The power of an angel is to speak in your head and tell you you need to do something. And you don't have to do it. So the angel that we call the evil inclination is this being that comes around to test us, to see how much we really want to be attached to God. And it's not just to test us. We're not being tested because God is bored in heaven and needs to play a board game with humanity to see how well we do in the game. No, it's not like that at all. Rather, by passing the test, we ascend the ladder to become like our Father, to become God-like. We cannot become that if we don't stand up to certain tests. And the ultimate test, of course, is having the power of life and death, like a king, or a tzaddik who can create life through creating angels, or cause death if he so curses somebody. Now, that's an unpleasant thought, too, to think that someone's righteous and loving and kind and merciful can create an angel that can take somebody out. Well, you know, sometimes things happen. Okay, so the Zohar tells us, though, that this prosecuting angel, that, you know, I saw someone wrote something on Facebook a couple of days ago about feeling always oppressed. He was a Christian that was done with Christianity, and he was interested in other ideas, the Noahide laws, which are an extension from the Ten Commandments, or actually in reverse order. The Noahide laws existed before the Ten Commandments in the human story of things. And this person was suffering because he felt that God was always on his shoulder going to destroy him any second. And that's the kind of theology you're getting in churches. And that's absolutely absurd. Why would God create you if he wants to destroy you every second? Who wants to serve such a God? Who wants to be in such a planet? Nobody. So it's the theology that's the problem, not the human being. We're fine. Our Creator is fine. He loves us. We try to love him as best we can, but the theology that God is always going to destroy me any second I do something wrong, that is an exaggeration of the concept we have here. There is this prosecutor, and he would love to see us listen to him. But in truth, the rabbis teach in the Talmud that the Yetzer Hara wants us to defeat him. He wants us to be victorious. He wants us to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that sin. I'm not going to commit that act. I'm not going to say that word. He wants us to win because by winning, we justify our creation in the face of the angels that said from the beginning, why should you create man, God? He's just going to sin against you. He's going to go against your Torah. He's going to violate your laws. He's going to make the planet dirty, etc., etc. No, but when we're on the mark and when we do what we need to do, we're actually proving to the angels that we're better than them, that we are justifiably created, and we give honor to our Creator by keeping the laws, practicing the practices, praying the prayers, and doing the things that need to be done. Okay, so when do we get the good side? Let's ask that question. That's kind of important, right? Because if the Zohar is calling our evil inclination an angel, then we must have an equal and opposite force, because everything in creation, remember this law, take it, put it in your bank account. Everything is perfectly balanced, always. Otherwise, the creation would fall apart. For every good, there's an evil. Just like it says it in Kohelet, for every season there is a good and an evil, a time of peace, a time of war, a time of love, a time of hate. Everybody knows that piece of Shlomo Melech wrote for us, and I guess the Birds, an old group in the 70s, made a beautiful song out of it. There's perfect balance, and the perfect balance of our evil inclination is a good inclination. A good inclination is our natural impulse to do good things. Now that inclination, the Zohar says, we get when we come to purify ourselves. When I decide I don't want to live in the lower realms of reality anymore. Automatically, that decision sends you a new angel that's going to support you and direct you and guide your thoughts and your feelings and your footsteps. If you let it, it will guide you to where you need to go to create a very good life for your little journey on this planet. Because that's all it is, really, is a little journey. Now, the good inclination, if you're a Jew, you have this command to do bar mitzvah. The Zohar tells us, and this is all in the first few paragraphs. I'm paraphrasing it for the sake of efficiency, shall we say, here on Facebook. But the time for a Jewish young man to receive his good inclination is the bar mitzvah, when we take on the mitzvot. Because taking on a mitzvah is an act of purification. I'm purifying my will for God's will. I'm clearing out the channel of what I want for what the greater knowledge and wisdom wants. Okay? And so what if I'm a non-Jew? Well, the principle still stands. If you come to purify, you will be guided. You will create positive angels through your deeds, and you will be led by them. And then we're really in the fight. Then we really have a real chance to sanctify the name of the Creator by our deeds. Now, a human being cannot do better than that. I'm sorry, I would rather sanctify God's deeds than win the Nobel Prize. Excuse me. People spend their whole lives to try to get prizes and honors and praises. And it's all from people that I wouldn't even want to have a beer with, Let's face it. The people that are offering the prizes, who are they? How do they hold up on fake news? So I think it's really important to understand this idea of angels. The difficulty is that the theology that's existed for hundreds and even thousands of years about them as false theology. They don't have any power. Now, I know that it's easy to talk about, but it's a very hard thing to erase. I'm sitting here trying to avoid this sunlight beaming through the window on my face. I hope it's not disturbing too much. But, you know, this is easy to talk about when you have a beautiful book like the Zohar in front of you, but to live it is what we're after. Okay, we want to live these concepts. We want to live these ideas. We want to recognize that there are two beings sitting at the helm of our starship enterprise, right? Your good impulse and your negative one. And you have the power to win, to choose and to win. And if we don't choose to win, well, we'll get another chance and another chance and another chance. But we're going to win. The Jewish people are going to win. The good people of this world are going to win. Now, it might not look pretty along the way. That's, well, we've already seen what history has produced. But the battle begins in consciousness, because evil has no real power, as I said, except to present a choice, an image or a voice. That's all it has, the image or the voice. And if you follow that image or voice of the wrong side, then, well, we're going to have to fix it. And of course, the Torah was not set up to make us fall. It was set up to teach us how to come back home to our Creator, to get back to the level of, well, literally bringing heaven down to earth, that we make this place really a heavenly realm. And that is possible, and that's what we're here to do. Now, the Zohar goes on to tell us something very interesting, that these two angels reside on the right and the left. Now, in Kabbalah, you're familiar with the tree of life. And this concept, the tree of life, of course, is a collection of the powers of your soul. And they're arranged according to your body. So you literally have a right side and a left side psychically that speaks to you. And that right side or left side can help you determine what voice you're hearing, because unfortunately the evil, what we call that prosecutor, he's very clever. He sounds very smooth. He talks very well. He convinces you that you're going to get something you really want. But you know, Reb Shlomo Carlebach taught us a beautiful thing about Shabbat. He says, you know, when you want something, you really want it bad. And you go for it and you get it. You feel good for about, 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour, whatever it is. But then it's over and you don't want it anymore. You're not the pleasure's over. Whereas when you want Shabbat and you wait all week for Shabbat and Shabbat is coming and you feel that heavenly rest that comes upon the world, guess what? When Shabbat is over, you still want it. And every week you want Shabbat. And every week you look forward to that. Whereas most of the pleasure of this world, they come and they go. And, when they're over, they're over. But Shabbat lasts forever. And the longing continually pulls us in that direction, because that's really God's love pulling us. Now, this idea of the right and the left is important, because when you're spiritually sensitive, you can tell what part of you is talking to you. You could tell. You do it all the time. You don't even realize it. When your foot hurts, your body's talking to you about your foot. And when when you have a headache, well, you don't have to get fancy to figure out where that's from. So, but spiritually, when I hear a voice in my head, I need to know, well, is that coming from the right or the left? Is that coming from expanded consciousness or constricted consciousness? Because the evil, the side of constriction is always bringing the negative, and the side of expansion is always giving us something good to do. Now, of course, you can overexpand, and that also becomes evil. So, of course, the work is to bring the two together in perfect balance, in the middle, in the heart, what we call the center column of the mind and the soul. So these two angels, they come to, attend us, if you will, in this world. And the more we seek purity and goodness and truth and justice in ourselves, not justice in politics, you know what I mean? I'm sorry. The justice we need to have is right inside our own heart with ourselves and the people around us. And when we seek that, automatically you reach higher levels of refinement. And your higher refinement leads you to make better decisions and leads you to have more pleasure from life. Now, I was a secular person for 30 years. I thought I had all the pleasures, but they all disappeared after they were over. So I said, there's got to be something more to being on this planet than these ephemeral pleasures that just disappear when they're gone. And I found the true pleasure here in the Torah, here in the history and the beauty of the tradition, the practices, the meditations, the prayers, everything that Judaism offers us. And just to end, you know, we're told that on Friday night, when a Jew comes home from the synagogue, he's accompanied by 2 angels. Oh, that's why we sing Shalom Aleichem, you know. Well, we're singing to those angels, but who are they? Well, they are, the Zohar teaches us, our good inclination and the negative inclination. Now, why do I want to invite the negative inclination to my Shabbos meal? Why do I want to invite him into the kitchen and into the dining room table and to sit with my family and friends? I don't want the Yetzer around. I'd rather he take off, go back to the psychic, purgatory. No, the reason that we have invited the negative angel, the prosecutor, to our meal on Friday night is because he is subdued by the light of Shabbat. That the negative force has no power over Shabbat. And that when we're with the right side, when we're working with the true connection to Hashem, with the mitzvot and with the laws of Shabbat, and keeping Shabbat as best we can, each person at their own level, then the evil inclination is automatically put to, you know, he's put down. He's quiet. He just has to observe. I don't know if he's even coming from his own will. But ultimately, the rabbis do teach us that the Yetzer Hara himself wants us to win, that we are here to win, and that even evil eventually wants to be purified and elevated and return to its place in the throne of glory, because before there was good and evil, there was just good. And that's where we're headed. And we're going back to that ultimate good, the eternal good. And Shabbat is a little taste of that eternal good, where there was no evil in creation. So these are the words of the Zohar. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his students wrote them down, and we've got about 2,000 more pages to go, so there's work ahead of us. But we bless you all with a holy Shabbat, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And even if you don't keep Shabbat, well, keep 1 minute of peace. Keep 1 minute to turn off the world and turn your soul. And we'll be here next week on our Patreon daily classes with Rabbi Nachman, on Facebook, on YouTube, on, well, what other outlets? Insight Timer, Web Yeshiva, Lighthouse Torah Project from Miami. You know, just look around the internet and we'll be there to learn together. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom.